for now we'll be handling authority and leadership. That is this is what we'll cover for this part of the lesson: authority and leadership. The last time we had covered an aspect of that module, so today let's complete this. What are the intended learning outcomes of this this lesson? At the end of this lesson, as usual, you should be able to define the term authority. You should be able to define the term authority. Again, you should be able to explain the types of authority. The types of authority. You should be able to list them. There are different types of authority. You should be able to list and explain them. Then you should be able to define the term leadership. Leadership. Please, again, you should be able to list and explain the different leadership theories. There are two major leadership theories. We are going to be dealing with that. By the end of this lesson, you should be able to explain those. And again, differentiate between leaders and managers. Leaders and managers. So let's okay, and so let's just proceed straight on into the topic. Let's define authority. In the last someone had asked the difference between authority and power. Authority and power, and I gave you a task to go and find that out to know the difference. So today we'll be dealing with authority, the concept of authority. Authority, by way of simple definition and using the key terms, is the legitimate use of power, right? The legitimate use of power. That means authority is legitimate, while in most cases power is illegitimate. All right, in most cases power is illegitimate. That's why you sometimes hear people say, who authorized you? All right, who authorized you to do that? Who gave you the authority to punish those people? That means authority is legitimate. All right, it is in line with the norms, with the laws. Okay, it is bestowed in an office. It is not something that somebody can on his own. All right, it is something. It is like a trust which is given. So authority is legitimate. It's legitimate. It is. It has to do with the law. It is in consonance with the norms. Whereas power, on the other hand, is an individual thing. It's something that is some sort of a characteristics. All right, an individual specific characteristics. But authority, on the other hand, it's a legitimate thing. It's something that an individual uses that power legitimately. The power is bestowed on that person. Okay. All right, so that's a simple definition of authority. For those of you who may be taking your TMAs, your exams, if you're asked dash is the legitimate use of power, you simply know it's authority. Okay. All right, so looking at this image now, the zombies you are seeing here have actually given this man the authority to forge ahead, all right, to control, to take charge. Okay, and so that's a simple illustration, a simple analogy of what authority means. All right, so there are different types of authorities. Let's quickly look at that. The types of authorities by Max Weber. All right, by Max Weber. This name is pronounced Weber. All right, Weber, like this. Weber. Okay, not Weber, not Max Weber. You need to take note of that as students of sociology. It is pronounced Max Weber. All right, Max Weber. That is the pronunciation. All right, so the types of authority according to Max Weber 1946 are traditional authority, charismatic authority, and rational legal authority. Okay, for some of you, you call it rational legal authority. So these are the three key types of authority that have been identified by Max Weber. One of these is not a type of authority identified by Max Weber. You can have all three options and one extraneous option for you to choose, so you should be able to know. Okay, these are the three types of authority, so we are going to be taking them one after the other. So let's look at the traditional type of authority. Traditional authority. Now the traditional authority here, as you can see, we have a picture here which depicts that of an emir. All right, an emir is the traditional type of authority is based on customs. All right, it is handed down through the generations. All right, from one generation to another. That is how that type of authority is handed down. Okay, it is something that is sometimes it is an ancestral thing. It is transferred from one generation to another. Okay, there is the sacred right. Okay, the sacred rights of a king or queen, an emperor or tribal chief to command his or her subject. Usually those rights are bestowed on people like kings, like queens, an emperor, a tribal chief, even a traditional ruler. Okay, a paramount ruler. All of those are traditional authority. All right, the rights are traditionally bestowed on those persons. Like we have this image here. Let's say this is an emir. All right, so the people have traditionally bestowed or conferred that authority on him to exercise. An example of traditional authority in Nigeria, we have the obas, the emirs, all right, the traditional rulers, the chiefs. All of those constitute traditional authority. You need to know the key word here, that it is based on customs, and again it is handed down through the generations. All right, so it is transferred from generation to generation. Okay, let's move on to the next type, which is the charismatic type of authority. The charismatic authority. Now, this charismatic authority is based on personal qualities. All right, there are people that you see, they carry themselves with so much prestige, they exhibit so much intelligence or so much knowledge. Ordinarily, you should know those people carry some, by virtue of their countenance, they exercise some authority. You can't just resist their orders. All right, and so it is based on personal qualities. Authority based on personal qualities is charismatic authority. Now it is not traditional. There's no traditional or legal claim to power. The carriers of this type of authority do not have any traditional or legal claim to such power. They derive their powers from their followers' beliefs. All right, so the followers simply believe in them because of the personal qualities they have seen in them. Possibly they are orators, they can speak, they are bold enough, they are people who can challenge authorities, and so the followers bestowed that trust and authority on them. Okay, believing that they have those personal qualities to exhibit the required authority. It is those personal qualities that must be charismatic. All right, that must be charismatic. So once they possess that charismatic qualities, all right, they exercise the authority. So the summary of this is that charismatic authority is based on personal qualities. Authorities based on personal qualities is charismatic authority, and usually this authority is derived from the followers. All right, from the followers. Examples of such persons are Mahatma Gandhi. All right, Martin Luther King Jr. These are people who led others charismatically. They had the qualities, all right, to lead people, and they exercise such authorities with the backing of the people. Such people, you can't actually touch them. All right, if you touch them, The followers will come after you. All right, let's see the rational legal authority. The rational legal authority. Just a minute. Okay, the rational legal authority. The rational legal authority. Rational legal. All right, anything that is legal has to do with law. It has to do with law, and that is why you have this image right here, the scale of justice right there. Okay. Again, this shows that that type of authority is enshrined in a document, all right, in a legal document. It is something that you can make reference to. It is derived from a formal system of rules or laws. Okay, as simple as that. Authority derived from a formal system of rules or laws is what type of authority? It is the the rational legal type of authority. The rational legal type of authority. It is vested in the position or office, not in the occupant. All right, take note of this. It is vested in the position or office, not in the occupant. Why? Because the occupant, the occupant is a temporary officer. All right. All right, the occupant is a temporary officer. The occupant is not somebody who stays in that office for life. For instance, the president of a country, a senator, all right, after the expiration of their tenure, they leave that office. And so, rational legal authority is a temporary type of authority on the person, and it is permanently vested in the position or office, not in the person. Okay. So when you are discussing this, you need to know these two key points. The rational legal authority, like I said, it's an authority that is derived from a formal system of rules. An example is the president of a country, a senator. Whatever authority those people discharges, whatever the authority they exhibit, is a legal authority. It's a rational legal authority. Okay, so this is clear enough. So authorities that are drawn from our legal books, from the law books, are rational legal authorities. So we have been able to discuss all three types of authority. All three types of authority. And we have also been able to define the term authority. Just to be sure that you should be able to revise and get a better grasp of what we have discussed, let me present is rule or law. Okay, not rule of law. Rule of law is a different. Rule of law is totally a different thing. All right, so we are talking about authorities that are enshrined in rules. There are documents that contains rules, and there are documents that contains laws. All right, you can okay. So now we have been able to discuss that. So let's just quickly take a class activity. All right, a class activity. You are not expected to provide the answers right now, although it's a class activity, but then privately on your own, in order to be sure that you have fully understood this lesson that we have just done. Define authority. How does it differ from power? All right, how does it differ from power? We have explained that. Then list and explain the different types of authority. If you are in this class, you should be able to attempt this. All right, you should be able to attempt this. So I am pausing this right here so you can get it. Then practice that and ensure that you are able to solve it out yourself. Alright, so let's move on to the next aspect of this lesson that has to do with leadership. Power, authority, leadership all have their relationship. Alright, they all have their relationship. Power and authority are key to the existence of leadership. Okay, So the first question that anyone will want to ask is, what is leadership? What is leadership? And of course, you may also want to envisage or foresee the possibility of entertaining this question during your examination. What is leadership? Okay, the image you have in here is made up of followers. You can see some people right there. Then there is one person with colored differently. All right, so let's assume that is the leader in front. So what is leadership? The key definition here is that it is a dynamic process where one individual over a particular period of time and in a particular organizational context influences the group members to commit themselves freely to achievement of group tasks or goals. Okay, now look at the key word, influences. And you know, when we define power, we actually used this key term. Influence is order to do what they ordinarily would not have done. All right, so that means in leadership, power is very key. Okay, now from this definition as well, as a very brilliant student, you should be able to deduce that the primary function, the primary objective of leadership or of a leader is to achieve group tasks or goals, organizational goals, right? Organizational goals. When someone is appointed a leader, the essence is for that person to remain focused until the group objectives, the group goals are achieved. For instance, just like we are going to be appointing someone who is going to be leading this course as the course rep, okay, not class rep. Course rep is specific to the course. All right, so now the leadership is a dynamic process whereby one individual over a particular period of time, so it is based on tenure, all right, particular period of time, it is based on tenure, and in a particular organizational context influences the group members to commit themselves freely to the achievement of group tasks or goals. This definition was given by Cole, 1997. All right, you can in your TME you can see maybe some aspect of this, and you are asked who actually gave this definition. That is the name right there. Okay. All right, so let's proceed to leadership theories. There are different theories, but we are going to take two of them, and what those theories have actually attempted to answer is the question of whether leaders are born or made. All right, whether people become leaders during birth or after birth, whether the society made them leaders, or whether they become leaders by birth. Okay, whether they become leaders by birth. All right, so two of those theories, we are going to be looking at them right now: the great man and the great man or great woman theory, which in other words is also another theory that also handles the same area, trait theory. All right, so we have the great man or the great woman theory, and the trait theory is also contextually addressing the same thing, like what the great man or great woman leadership theory has on its thesis. All right, so according to these theories, that leaders are born. All right, that leaders are born. It's more of a biological type of theory, that the leadership traits are inherited, and people who are born leaders they have certain characteristics that makes them leaders. They have good initiatives, they have courage, they have height. You know, height sometimes can be very intimidating. They are highly intelligent, they have good communication skill, and they have a very sound sense of humor. Okay, so all of these are personal characteristics that could qualify an individual right from birth as a leader. Okay. Now these are essential patterns or essential characteristics that individuals who possess them are at birth, okay, gives a clear indication that they are likely going to be leaders. And of course, these characteristics are very important. There are people who possess this naturally, and once you see them, people who possess these characteristics tend to be born leaders. They are people who naturally are known as leaders. Okay, so according to the great woman, the great man, great woman theory, leadership theory, and the trait theory, leaders are born. All right, leaders possess certain characteristics that are essential leadership patterns during their birth. Okay, all right. So let's move on to the next type of theory, which is the interactionist theory. The interactionist theory. This is a theory that believes that leaders are a product of individuals' characteristics and the situation of the group. Individuals' personal characteristics and the situation of the group. So this theory borrowed from the great man, great women trait theory, and added, the extra thing that is added here is that the situation of the group can also determine who becomes the leader of the group. That means that not everybody can actually lead a particular group. So the thesis of this theory is that it is a product of individuals' characteristics and the situation of the group. That is why once situation changes, leaders of those groups also change, because the incumbent leader may not be able to handle the situation at hand. For instance, what is happening in Nigeria right now, some of you have your personal opinion that the situation at hand seems not is too difficult for the current leader to handle, and so there is need for another leader that should be able to handle the situation to come in. And that was what happened exactly during the last general elections, the 2015 election. That situation was seen as something that the leader, President Goodluck Jonathan, couldn't handle, and so it ushered in a new leader whom people believed had the personal characteristics, all right, the individual characteristics, and that should be able to handle that situation. Okay, and surprisingly, it seems we are still on the same cycle where we are now looking for a leader that should be able to handle the current situation. So this theory seems appropriate, again looking at the individual's characteristics and the situation of the group. That doesn't rule out the first theory. The first theory is the basis for this theory, and so by meta-theorizing, which is a process of borrowing from an already existing theory, leadership or leaders are a product of their individual characteristics and the situation of the group at that time. So leaders are both born and made. These two characteristics combined together should make up a good leader. All right, so of course, like I said, leadership changes as the group situation changes. For those of you who are aspiring to be leaders, ask yourself, what personal characteristics do you possess that you should be a leader? Are you intelligent? Are you outspoken? Are you courageous? Are you somebody who is very bold? Do you have good initiatives and all of that? All right, when you add that, and of course your intelligence, your initiative should be able to help you solve the group situation. Okay, all right, let's quickly look into leaders versus managers. Leaders versus managers, what are the difference? Let's look into that. Now you can see this little image here used to clarify this concept, especially for those of you who like instructional videos with pictures. You can see here this other guy is in front. Okay, he's in front, but this other guy, perceived to be the manager, is from the rear, is from behind. Okay, while the members of the group are in front. but here the members of the group are behind. Okay, this clearly shows a picture of the difference between a leader and a manager. The manager tends to set people to work, all right, tends to set people to work and then watch over them to see how they complete the task. Whereas a leader is at the forefront, he's the one taking the first bullet, and then the followers are giving him the support. Okay, so by simple differentiation, leadership is only an aspect of what manager does. All right, what managers actually do is leadership is just an aspect, because managers perform 4 basic functions. That's what they call okay, if you do organizational behavior, managers perform 4 basic functions: planning, organizing, controlling, and leading. So leadership is just an aspect of the manager's role, just an aspect of the manager role. That is the basic difference between these two. All right, that's the basic difference. A good leader may not be a good manager, and as well a good manager may not be a good leader may not be a good manager, and a good manager may not be a good leader. All right, they complement themselves. In some group, the person who is the leader of the group may not even be the manager of the group. You can now have somebody differently who possesses the qualities of a manager that can now manage that group. So they complement themselves. All right. Okay, so both leadership and management are essential to group vitality. For every group, for any group to survive, you need a leader. Okay, you must have sound leadership and good management for that group to survive optimally. All right, for that group to survive optimally. All right, so we have now come to the end of this first section of the topics we have handled. And again, I will give you a class activity 2 for you to take note and complete them privately. Okay, I'm not scoring you for that. That is just for yourself, so you can take down those questions that handles this second aspect of the class activity. The first question is, what is leadership? All right, you need to deal with this over and over to be sure that you have gotten a good understanding about the concept. Then, using at least 2 theories. Remember, we talked about the great man or great woman or trait theory, and we also talked about the interactionist theory. Using at least 2 theories, explain how leadership is conceived. The other one said leadership is leaders are born, while the second one says leaders are born, and of course the condition of the group also determines who becomes the leader. Then critically examine the relationship between a leader and a manager. Okay, just know that leadership is just an aspect of management. All right, it's just an aspect, but then they complement themselves in order for us to have group vitality. You can expatiate more and more, don't just be skeletal. All right, read further, there are a lot of information out there. So that is it. I will now thank you so much for paying attention in this first half. Please just hold on. We will take another topic again. So see you in the next class.